Breaking Bad introduced some of the most iconic villains in television history: drug lords, cartel enforcers, neo-Nazis, and a chemistry teacher who became worse than all of them. Today we're breaking down every major villain in the series, who they were, what they did, and how they met their end. Starting with the first person Walter White ever killed, Crazy 8 and Emilio. Domingo Molina, known as Crazy 8, is introduced in the pilot episode alongside his cousin Emilio Koyama. Emilio was Jesse Pinkman's original partner in the meth business. He's the reason everything starts. Emilio gets busted by the DEA, and Walt happens to be riding alongside with his brother-in-law when it goes down. Walt sees Jesse fleeing the scene, and later approaches him about cooking meth together. When Walt and Jesse cook their first batch in the RV, Emilio recognizes Walt from the ride-along and assumes he's a rat. Things go bad fast. Walt creates phosphine gas, which kills Emilio. Crazy 8 survives, but gets knocked unconscious. He wakes up in Jesse's basement with a bicycle lock around his neck, chained to a pole. Walt is tasked with killing him, but can't bring himself to do it. He brings Crazy 8 sandwiches, they talk, and Walt makes a pros and cons list about whether to let him go. He genuinely considers releasing him. Then Walt notices a broken plate. He counts the pieces and realizes one shard is missing. Crazy 8 had hidden it, planning to stab Walt the moment he was freed. All those friendly conversations were manipulation. Walt strangles him with the bike lock while Crazy 8 stabs him in the leg with the missing piece. This is Walt's first kill. Better Call Saul later reveals that Crazy 8 was actually a DEA informant feeding information to Hank Schrader. The man Walt murdered in that basement was working for his own brother-in-law the entire time. Tuco Salamanca. Tuco Salamanca is the nephew of Hector Salamanca and a mid-level distributor for the Juarez cartel. Raymond Cruz plays him as completely unhinged. Tuco snorts meth constantly and swings between manic friendliness and explosive violence without warning. His introduction sets the tone. When Jesse tries to sell Walt's meth to him, Tuco beats Jesse badly and steals the product. Walt responds by walking into Tuco's headquarters with a bag of crystals that look like meth but are actually fulminated mercury. He throws a piece at the ground. The explosion blows out the windows, and Walt demands his money, plus a promise of future business. He gets both. This is the birth of Heisenberg. Tuco's volatility makes him dangerous to everyone around him. In one scene, he beats his associate No-Dose to death just for speaking out of turn. No warning, no build-up, just jumping into sudden, fatal violence because Tuco didn't like being interrupted. He kidnaps Walt and Jesse with plans to take them to Mexico, bringing them to a remote hideout where his uncle Hector lives. The situation ends with Hank tracking them down. Tuco dies in a shootout, going out exactly as he lived, violently and chaotically. Gustavo Fring. The owner of Los Pollos Hermanos, a successful fast food chicken chain. He attends DEA charity fundraisers, donates to local causes, and presents himself as a pillar of the Albuquerque community. Underneath that, he runs the largest meth distribution operation in the American Southwest. Giancarlo Esposito plays Gus with terrifying restraint. He rarely raises his voice. When he's angry, he gets quieter. When he's planning to kill someone, he smiles politely. The gap between his public persona and who he actually is makes him one of the most compelling villains in television history. Gus's backstory involves his partner, Max Arciniega. Years before the events of Breaking Bad, Gus and Max approached the cartel with a proposal to manufacture and distribute methamphetamine. Don Eladio had Max shot in front of Gus as punishment for cooking meth on cartel territory without permission. Gus was forced to watch, then forced to lie in his partner's blood. The cartel let him live because they saw potential use for him. That moment defined everything Gus became. He spent the next 20 years building his empire and planning revenge. The box cutter scene shows exactly who Gus is. His employee Victor had been seen at a crime scene, which is a problem. Gus walks into the lab, changes into a hazmat suit, and slits Victor's throat with a box cutter without saying a word. Then he changes back into his regular clothes and tells Walt and Jesse to get back to work. Gus's revenge comes in the episode Salud. He travels to Don Eladio's compound in Mexico with a gift of rare tequila. He drinks from the bottle himself to prove it's safe. Then he watches as Eladio and his men drink the same tequila tequila and collapse. The bottle was poisoned the entire time. Gus had simply taken an antidote beforehand. Gus dies because he underestimates Walter White. By season 4, Gus has decided Walt is too dangerous to keep around. He plans to kill Walt and replace him with Jesse, who he's been slowly pulling to his side. Walt tries everything. He attempts to plant a bomb on Gus's car, but Gus senses something is wrong and walks away. Walt is desperate. He needs someone who hates Gus as much as he does. Someone with nothing left to lose. He finds Hector Salamanca. Hector had spent years rotting in a nursing home, paralyzed and humiliated, watching Gus destroy his family piece by piece. Gus killed his nephews, his grandson. Gus took everything from him. When Walt approaches Hector with a plan to take Gus down, Hector doesn't hesitate. Walt rigs a pipe bomb to Hector's wheelchair and hooks the detonator to his bell. The trap is set through the DEA. Hector asks to speak with the feds, making it look like he's finally ready to inform on Gus. Word gets back to Gus immediately. He can't let Hector talk. He has to silence him personally. Gus arrives at the nursing home with Tyrus, his bodyguard. They sweep the room for threats and find nothing. Gus approaches Hector, ready to kill the old man who's been a thorn in his side for decades. Hector looks up at him. For the first time in years, there's no hatred in his eyes, just satisfaction. He starts ringing the bell. Gus realizes what's happening a second too late. The bomb explodes, the walls blow out, and Gus walks out of the room with half his face gone. Skin and muscle burnt away, skull exposed. He straightens his tie, adjusts his jacket, then he collapses, dead. Even in death, Gus Fring had more composure than most people have in life. Hector Salamanca. Hector Salamanca is the patriarch of the Salamanca family and a former cartel enforcer. By the time we meet him in Breaking Bad, he's in a wheelchair after suffering a stroke. He can't walk, can't talk, and can only communicate by ringing a bell attached to his chair. One ding means yes, rapid dinging means anger. Mark Margolis shows us perfectly, visually, what decades of hatred and cruelty are through just his eyes and that bell. Better Call Saul shows Hector before the stroke. He was a brutal killer who murdered innocent people to send messages and terrorized everyone in his path. He once shot a witness in front of Nacho Varga just to show him what happens to people who talk. He beat down a restaurant owner for refusing to let the cartel use his business. He threatened to murder the family of anyone who crossed him. Hector didn't make threats. He made promises. The stroke that paralyzed him wasn't natural. Nacho Varga caused it. Nacho worked for the Salamancas, but hated them. When Hector started pressuring Nacho's father to let the cartel use his shop as a front, Nacho knew he had to act. His father was a legitimate businessman who wanted nothing to do with the drug trade. If Nacho didn't stop Hector, his father would either be forced into the business or killed for refusing. Nacho learned that Hector had a heart condition and took medication for it. He replaced them with ibuprofen that looked identical. Without his real medication, Hector's heart gave out during a heated meeting with Gus. However, Gus saved his life. He performed CPR and kept Hector breathing until the ambulance arrived, but the damage was done. Hector survived, but the stroke left him paralyzed. The most feared enforcer in the Salamanca family was now trapped in a useless body, unable to speak, unable to move, able only to ring a bell. But Hector's hatred never faded. Gus wanted Hector to receive the best medical care possible, not out of kindness. Gus wanted Hector alive. He wanted him to watch as Gus systematically destroyed everything the Salamanca family had built. The cousins, Joaquin, the cartel's power, all of it.
Now, the Salamanca name dies with you.
Gus took it piece by piece, and Hector had to sit there paralyzed, watching it happen. When Walt offers Hector the chance to kill Gus, to die killing Gus, there's no hesitation. Hector has been waiting for this. The look he gives Gus in that nursing home room right before he starts ringing the bell, it's pure hatred. Ding 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 ding. Gus realizes what's happening a second too late, and the bomb goes off. Two men who spent decades trying to destroy each other, finally ending it together. The cousins. Lionel and Marco Salamanca are Hector's nephews and Tuco's cousins. They're known simply as the Cousins. They almost never speak, they communicate through nods. They dress in matching silver suits with skull-tipped boots and move like they're one. Their introduction is one of the most unsettling sequences. They crawl through the Mexican desert toward a shrine to Santa Muerte, the Saint of Death. They come to Albuquerque to avenge Tuco. Their target is Walter White, and they nearly get him. In one of the most chilling scenes in the entire series, the cousins break into Walt's house while he's in the shower. They sit on his bed, completely silent, waiting for him to finish. One of them holds an axe. They're in no rush. They could kill him anytime they want. They're just waiting. Then one of them gets a text message. It's from Gus. One word, Pollos. They leave without making a sound. Walt never even knows they were there, but Gus offers them an alternative. He tells the cousins that the man truly responsible for Tuco's death isn't Walt. It's the DEA agent who shot him, Hank Schrader. The parking lot ambush is one of the most intense scenes in the series. Hank receives an anonymous warning call from Gus, giving him 1 minute before the attack. Just enough time to be aware, not enough time to escape. Lionel approaches him from behind. Hank sees him in the rearview mirror and throws his car into reverse, pinning Lionel against another vehicle. The impact crushes his legs from the waist down. Marco opens fire. He shoots Hank multiple times, knocking him to the pavement. Hank is bleeding out, crawling on the ground. Marco stands over him, gun aimed at his head. But Marco doesn't pull the trigger.
No.
He wants to do this right. He wants the axe. He walks back to the car to retrieve it. While he's gone, Hank notices something on the ground. A hollow point bullet that Marco dropped while reloading. Hank drags himself toward it, and he loads the single bullet into Lionel's gun. Marco returns with the axe raised. Hank shoots him in the head. Lionel survives. His legs are amputated, and he's taken to the same hospital as Hank. When Walt visits the DEA agents to view Lionel through the window of his room, Lionel sees him. He recognizes the man he was supposed to kill. He tears off his monitors, rips out his IVs, and throws himself off the bed. He drags himself across the floor by his stumps, blood trailing behind him, eyes locked on Walt with pure hatred. Hospital staff tackle him and drag him back to bed before he can reach the door. Later that night, Mike slips into Lionel's room and kills him with a lethal injection. Gus arranged the whole thing. The cousins were never meant to survive. They were tools, useful for taking out Hank or dying in the attempt. Either outcome worked for Gus. Don Eladio and Juan Bolsa. Don Eladio is the head of the Juarez cartel. He's the man who ordered Max's death. He humiliated Gus, made him kneel in his partner's blood, and let him live only because he saw future usefulness in him. Stephen Bauer plays Eladio as a man completely comfortable with his power. He's been on top for decades. Everyone fears him. The idea that someone might be planning to kill him never crosses his mind. That arrogance is what gets him killed. Juan Bolsa serves as the cartel's liaison, managing relationships between Gus and the Salamanca family. He's more businessman than killer. He wears nice suits, negotiates calmly, and authorizes murders the way other executives approve budget requests. Some fans find him less memorable than other cartel villains, but that's actually realistic. Real cartel bosses aren't all theatrical. Some of them are just professionals who happen to do terrible things. Both men die at Don Eladio's compound when Gus poisons the tequila. They collapse into the same pool where Max died years earlier. Gus made sure of that. Jack Welker and Todd Alquist. The final season introduces Jack and his neo-Nazi gang. Jack runs his crew with military efficiency. He's brutal, practical, and completely without pretense. Unlike Gus, who hid behind legitimacy, Jack is exactly what he appears to be, a white supremacist criminal who kills for money. But Jack isn't the most disturbing member of his crew. That's Todd. Jesse Plemons plays Todd as someone completely disconnected from normal human emotion. He's polite, he's helpful. He calls people sir and ma'am. He seems like a nice enough young man. Then he shoots a child. During the train heist, a kid on a dirt bike witnesses what they've done. Todd waves at him, and the kid waves back. Todd pulls out a gun and shoots him dead. No hesitation, no emotion, just problem solving. That's what makes Todd terrifying. He doesn't kill out of anger or cruelty, he kills because it's convenient. When he keeps Jesse as a slave to cook meth, he's pleasant about it. He brings Jesse ice cream, and he compliments his cooking. El Camino expands on his character, showing his creepy obsession with Lydia and his casual cruelty in more detail. Todd is arguably the most realistic portrayal of a psychopath in the entire franchise. Jack's crew kills Hank and Gomez. They steal Walt's money. They enslave Jesse for months. They're the final obstacle Walt has to overcome, and Walt takes them all out with an M60 machine gun rigged in his car trunk. The gun sweeps the room automatically, killing most of the gang. Jesse then strangles Todd with his chains. Jack dies mid-sentence, trying to bargain for his life by offering to reveal where the money is hidden. Walt doesn't care about the money anymore. He just wants Jack dead. Lydia is a Madrigal executive who handled logistics for Gus's operation. After Gus dies, she partners with Walt to expand distribution into the Czech Republic. Lydia orders chamomile tea during meetings about mass murder. She can't look at violence directly. When Mike's men are being killed on her orders, she asks not to see the bodies. Lydia is a corporate villain. She never gets her hands dirty. She just makes calls, arranges meetings, and sends emails. She partners with actual Nazis because they can maintain product quality. She treats the meth business like any other supply chain problem, with spreadsheets and complete emotional detachment. Walter poisons her with ricin hidden in her stevia. She dies the way she lived, alone, paranoid, and still probably ordering chamomile tea. Mike Ehrmantraut is beloved by fans. Jonathan Banks brings so much humanity to the role that it's easy to forget what Mike actually does. He kills people. He disposes of bodies. He runs security for a drug empire. He intimidates witnesses and eliminates threats. Mike is a villain. He was a dirty cop in Philadelphia, and his son Matt followed him onto the force and discovered that fellow officers were taking bribes. Matt wanted to report them. Mike knew what would happen if he did. Dirty cops eliminate threats. So Mike convinced Matt to take the money, to go along with it, and he did. But they killed him anyway. In one of Better Call Saul's most devastating scenes, Mike confesses this to Matt's widow. He told his son to compromise his principles, and it got him killed anyway.
Broke my boy. I broke my boy.
Mike killed the cops responsible and fled to Albuquerque, where he fell right back into crime. He became Gus Fring's head of security, his most trusted enforcer. Everything Mike earns goes to his granddaughter Kaylee. That's his justification. That's the story he tells himself. It's the same lie he told himself in Philadelphia. The same lie that got Matt killed. Walt shoots Mike over a list of names he didn't even need. Lydia had the same list. The murder accomplished nothing. Walt did it because Mike told him the truth.
We had a good thing, you stupid son of a bitch. We had Fring. We had a lab. We had everything we needed. It all ran like clockwork. You could have shut your mouth, cooked, and made as much money as you ever needed. It was perfect.
Walt's ego couldn't take it. Mike's final words are simple.
Let me die in peace.
A tired old man who just wanted silence. He sits by the river and bleeds out while Walt tries to apologize. He never got that peace. None of them did. Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman is the criminal lawyer who makes Walt and Jesse's operation possible. He connects them to distributors, launders their money, suggests crimes, and helps them avoid consequences. Without Saul Goodman, there is no Heisenberg Empire. Better Call Saul reveals his real name is Jimmy McGill. The show follows his transformation from a struggling lawyer who genuinely wants to help people into the morally bankrupt fixer we meet in Breaking Bad. His relationship with his brother Chuck, his love for Kim Wexler, his desire to do good, all of it gets corrupted by his inability to play by the rules. By the end of Better Call Saul, Jimmy finally accepts responsibility. His confession leads to an 86-year prison sentence. It's a kind of redemption, but it doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't bring back the people who died because Saul Goodman helped the wrong clients. Saul never pulled a trigger, but he built the machine that killed people, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Walter White. Walter White starts as a sympathetic protagonist, overqualified high school chemistry teacher, terminal cancer diagnosis, and a family he can't provide for. He starts cooking meth to leave them money after he dies. That's the lie he tells himself. That's always been the lie. The show lets you justify each step he takes. He had to kill Crazy 8. The guy was going to stab him. He had to work with Gus. The money was too good. He had to kill Gus. Gus was going to kill him first. Then you realize what he's actually done. He poisoned a child to manipulate Jesse. He watched Jane choke to death and did nothing. Or at least tried because she was a threat. He ordered 10 witnesses killed in 2 minutes. He destroyed his family while claiming to protect them. Walter White is the most dangerous kind of villain, the kind who believes he's the hero. In the finale, he finally admits the truth to Skyler.
I did it for me. I was good at it. I was alive.
That's the whole show. A man who felt small his entire life finally found something that made him feel powerful, and he burned everything down to keep that feeling. Walt dies in the meth lab after killing Jack's crew. He's surrounded by the equipment he loved more than his own family. He's finally at peace, but only because there's nothing left to destroy. Skyler White. One more, and this one's gonna be controversial. The Breaking Bad fanbase hates Skyler White. The hatred got so intense that Anna Gunn wrote an op-ed about the abuse she received from viewers who couldn't separate the character from the actress. So let's be clear, Skyler is not a villain. Who am I trying to fool? She's the worst of the worst. Remember the one time Junior asked for the cereal that says Crunch on the box? Yeah, she couldn't even get that right. So there it is, every major villain in Breaking Bad. So who's your favorite Breaking Bad villain? And remember, tread lightly.